Midlife has a way of changing everything through loss, illness, menopause, or turning a point you never asked for. When the life you planned quietly unravels, reinvention isn't a choice, it is a necessity. This is Midlife Menopause and Empowered Reinvention, a space we created for women navigating the physical, emotional, and identity shifts of midlife. Here we talk honestly about the change, healing, and purpose while becoming the women you are meant to be in this season of life. If you are in a season of reinvention, whether by choice or by your circumstances, Monica's story is going to meet you right where you are.
Hello, everybody. Today we have with us Monica Osejo. She is a Mexican-born fashion designer, entrepreneur, and accidental philosopher who believes in the healing power of laughter, lipstick, and lime. After launching a successful fashion line and participating in Miami Fashion Week, Monica discovered her true runway was life itself, with all its stumbles, style changes, and soul-deep transformations. She's a breast cancer survivor, devoted mother of 3, and margarita enthusiast who isn't afraid to pair stilettos with tortillas. Monica splits her time between designing, cooking, writing, and dodging life's unexpected salsas with grace and humor. Between Threads and Tortillas is her debut memoir and love letter to resilience, heritage, and messy, beautiful reinvention. So welcome today, Monica. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that introduction.
Of course. So without further ado, tell us about your story. Tell us about how you came from Threads to Tortillas.
It's pretty interesting. I was born in Mexico City, and I always loved fashion, but it took a while for me to get there. I had the typical dad that I was like, Dad, I want to study fashion, and he was like, No, that's not a career. You need, like a serious career. And so I studied business administration. But, after a while, I said I need to follow my calling. So I went to a small school fashion design and I started making dresses because I just love the creative process. And I started making dresses for my friends they were so generous, because I made some huge fun mistakes. Now we laugh about it. At the moment, I don't think it was so funny, but as everything in life, you just like try it out and sometimes you're gonna mess up. But finally, I did get like a good name in Mexico. Even though like in Mexico, it's not like the biggest fashion scene, but it started to get some fashion shows but then we decided to come to the States. And my husband said, Well, if you want to go, because I was the one who initiated, because I love Mexico, but like a family event brought us, I didn't feel that secure. And so we had 3 young children, and I wanted them to bring here. Here I felt safe. And I thought that my kids were going to grow up in a safe environment. And so he said, fine, but let's go with your business, meaning with your fashion business. And as an investment visa, let's set up your business there. And I was like, I don't think that's a great idea because I have no clue what I'm doing. And more or less, and more so here in the States, it's a total different ball game. But it was my only option, or the option he presented, and I just said yes, I'll do it. And that's how the story begins. And then we came here. I settled the business here in Miami, and then I got breast cancer, just settling in Miami with that big change and that big responsibility. And so that's where I decided that I needed to write about my journey, because up until that point, my life perspective changed. And I wanted to share with women that going through such a scary thing as having breast cancer could be a transformative event, that you could get You could learn lessons. There's growth in it. And so that's why I decided basically to write the book.
Yeah, that sounds like a really impactful transformation in your life. And what timing too, when you just got, to America and just settled in, and, this was going to be, your whole career for this new place in your life. So after that, after you were diagnosed, and my understanding is that you're cancer-free today.
Yeah, I am. Thank
Yeah.
God. 10 years.
Yes.
So that's a
Good.
big, yeah.
It's wonderful. So at that point, you just pivoted and said, I want to start helping women, right? So what did you do since you didn't continue with fashion? What did you do to really want to help women, and what tools did you use to try to do that?
Well, I wrote the book basically because I wanted to share my experiences in saying, don't be afraid, basically. So number one, do your mammograms. And if you feel something, just go to the doctor. Go get it checked, because the most probable thing it's gonna be nothing. There's like 80% of, if we feel a little bit of if a bump in our breast or whatever, 80% that it's not gonna be something to worry about. The thing is that if you leave it there, that's the dangerous thing. And I met women that would say, I felt it, but I was afraid of going to the doctor and afraid to confront if I had something, and then your diagnosis is more complicated if you wait. So just go get it checked. It's probably nothing. And I want to share something that I'm doing right now that I also wrote in the book, losing my hair, because it's part of your identity. It's not about vanity. It's about, you see in the mirror how sick you are. And so that's psychologically, it's very, very stressful. And it's even about privacy, right? And so I used wigs. I wasn't brave enough to go without anything. I just admire so much those women that can just be who they are at that moment and embrace it. I envied that self-confidence, but I couldn't. I just had to, a friend from Argentina sent me a video of a woman making cold caps with gel packs and making a cap and freezing their head while doing chemo. And actually that constricts the blood flow to your hair follicle, and it helps you preserve your hair during chemo. When something hits you like that, it's like, wow. I thought about an idea of how to make the cold cap, and right now I'm working with to help them keep their hair during chemo. And so I'm just it's such a privilege that some women let me help them and accompany them in their journey.
That's wonderful. Do you sell these caps?
Actually, I don't sell them because I had to make them with bags and gel.
Yeah, that's really wonderful, Monica. I absolutely love that you're doing that for women. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So as I said, it's a little bit of my experience since my upbringing in Mexico City, and then it's about all my life transitions. I think the book is also about reinvention and resilience and finding purpose in life. And sometimes you find purpose in doing dresses, and then in another season of your life, you're happy making tortillas, and then in another season, you want to help women. So I just want to give that message of resilience, reinvention, and that it's okay to, shed one skin and go into another season, or as era. Now the younger generations is about eras. And I think that's wonderful to be able to reinvent yourself. And in my case, I know that your podcast also touches the theme about having a toxic environment or a toxic person in your life. And those situations, I guess, in my experience, bring a lot of loss and a lot of grief. And that's why it's important for us women to hang together and just to process that loss and grief and just reinvent yourself and learn from what life throws at you, basically.
That's great. I'm really wanting to kind of go back to your situation with cancer, losing hair. What words of hope or comfort or encouragement would you give someone else that maybe, especially midlife, in this spot right now where you were? Do you have anything you could offer them for words of encouragement, hope, or?
I mean, in my experience, I mean, you only can talk about what you have lived. And I'm just trying to share how I did it. And I think the most important lesson that I learned when I felt on my darkest moments is to hang on to God and in something higher than yourself. Because when you're in such a low point, I had 3 young children, and that gave me a lot of anxiety. The anxiety was debilitating because it was about maybe my kids are going to grow up without a mother. And that was so devastating for me. And so I basically surrendered. I just, because I kept going back to what can I do? What can I eat? It didn't depend on me if the chemo was working or not. Because for some women, it works wonderfully, or people, it works wonderfully and it makes the tumors go away. But for some people, it doesn't. So I had to surrender. I had to trust in God and trust in God's plan. That was not what I had planned for my life, and that was not something I was expecting. And I didn't know why. I didn't have the BRCA gene. I would say to somebody that's going through a very dark time to just don't lose hope. And even though you want to throw the towel in and just say, I'm done, just keep on hanging on. There were days I would just say, just breathe. That's all you have to do today. Just keep breathing in and out, one at a time, in and out. And then the day will pass, the night will pass, and tomorrow is going to be a new day and you're going to feel better. So just keep breathing. That's what I would say.
That's really beautiful. I like that. Now, when you took that step to surrender, did that give you peace, or did you just decide this is what I'm going to do? And you just did it. And even though, you still had fear, but you just made that choice to put your mind there. And if it didn't give you peace, was there anything that helped you feel more peaceful through this time?
Actually, I had to surrender to get peace, because I think in our society, it's all about what you're doing. What are you generating? What it was your schedule today? Are you busy today? So it's up to you. And so I came with that. And I think also that I was responsible at that point for the visas in my family, and for basically it was my responsibility if we're going to stay or we're going to be shipped back to Mexico. So it was a lot of responsibility for me. And so it was, you need to do. So when you're surviving mode in trying to survive cancer, you're like, do. What I need to do to survive. And that anxiety and that do was the thing that was killing me, because and even having sugar, because they tell you sugar promotes cancer cells and don't eat sugar because that sucks. And I don't care. I'm going to eat a cupcake. I'm going to eat a chocolate cupcake because that makes me happy. And I'm betting you that it's not going to kill me, the cupcake. And so I lived more free because, for example, the woman that I treat with, a lot of women that are going through this, and they're very, very stressed about what they put in their body, as in food. They eat just very greens, and that's fabulous that you're taking care of your body. But one of them said to me, if I eat something with sugar, I feel I am eating a poison. And that's the difference between, I don't think sugar is going to kill me. I think my time in earth is determined by my higher power. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy, but what I'm trying to say, it doesn't depend on something that I do. My life here is determined, my lifeline, as in I think everybody's life is determined by my higher power, and I'm going to trust that I'm here the time I need to be here, and that I'm going to be called when I need to be called. So I'm going to enjoy my cupcake, honestly, because we've been through a lot. So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy life and not worry about eating all green. And I love salads. Don't get me wrong.
So that's carried over then to the last 10 years, right? You've had a whole new outlook on life where you're not fighting it or trying to control it or trying to be perfect. You're just trusting God that, whatever's supposed to come to you will, and you're just kind of rolling with it now, huh?
Absolutely. And that, I think, permeates a lot of the rest of my life. It's not only about food.
Mhm.
It's sometimes things don't go as you want. I also learned is that I think I was controlling in a way, or I wanted to control the outcomes or people or even my kids, what they do or what they didn't do, and or even who they are. You want your kids to be certain way, or you want them to go to certain schools, or and at the end of the day, you can't control that. Different individuals from you. You did the best that you could, and you have to let go also in even that respect and worrying about them, because you can drive yourself crazy worrying about your kids.
So this must have been a really difficult time financially too, when you just came here and then all of a sudden you didn't have a career. And I know on our Midlife Reinvention channel, so many of us, in midlife have gone through, like you said, those big transitions, divorce or um, health issues. You lost your career all of a sudden, you got laid off or you just couldn't do it anymore. And there's multiple ways that we end up getting pulled in too many directions with parents aging, and even just empty nest can be a really difficult time and depressing time. Financially, what did you do? Like, how did you go about? Because obviously you couldn't be working full time at a job, I don't think, going through the cancer and all the treatment. So what did you do to get through? Did you do that same trust where you just trusted in God, or what did it look like?
It's funny that you ask. At that precise time that I was going through all this, actually the business that I settled here, I joined forces with a woman that had connections with a factory in China. And so the business started growing amazingly. Also, it helps that my husband has a good job and he has a good insurance plan. So I was so grateful, because I can't imagine how people go through illness without insurance. Thank God that we had that. We were very fortunate that we had that insurance, and even the bosses of my husband were very generous, because when I had the chemo days, they let him accompany me. So that was huge. And the other part is that what kept me going also was work, because I was so excited that we were doing this new company and we got our dresses into Macy's, and I got to places that I would only dream of. We got the dresses into Macy's and into other big retail companies in Mexico. So at that point, we were actually doing good. The bad part was when I recovered, the company fell apart, and that's when I had to reinvent myself, and I lost that identity of making dresses and being a fashion designer. I loved being a fashion designer, and losing that identity was, for me, was horrible. Who am I if I don't make dresses? So that's where the reinvention has to come, and also kind of the faith in yourself and saying, well, I'm going to stand up and let's see what I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. And even if it's not what you expected it would be, you can still find happiness and joy in those jobs or in those purpose.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have, because you've done the cold caps. You said you were making tortillas at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's wonderful, Monica. I really, really love that. I think that you just, every time you got a 1-2 punch, you just picked yourself up and dusted yourself off and you just kept going. And that's what we really want to drive home with all of the listeners, is that no matter what, so many times the terrible and scary things in life that derail you, scare you, and make you lose your identity are the exact opportunity that God will bring into your life to pivot you into something else. And it could be even better and greater than what you ever did before. And in your case, I think it was, because I think now what you do it with such meaning, and you do it to help others. I mean, and having a cold cap so you don't lose your hair is so different than designing a dress, that's going into Macy's. But the incredible value and purpose in just linking arms with other women that are going through this. And I'm sure that also gives you chances to have really good conversations with these women that are in dark places that want to hear from you.
Yeah. For example, I'm blessed right now to help one of these women, and I go with her to the chemos. So we're sitting there, and she's sitting at the chair where I would sit, and she's afraid, because how can you not be? It's so scary. I'm there and she's like, I'm so scared. And I'm like, don't worry. I had, like, coincidentally with this woman, I had the exact chemo. And I said, don't worry. That's not the worst chemo you're going to have. And it's different when you share an experience where somebody, if you share something with somebody that has been there, it's completely different. That compassion and that connection you have with that person. It's not only about the cabs, it's about going with them through the journey. This whole thing, it was started, as I said earlier, by a couple of women in Argentina. And they have this foundation that they have made based on the caps. And I want that to bring that to the States, and I want that to bring to Mexico. And I want to make the caps in a factory so you don't have to make them yourself, because it's kind of complicated to make them. I think when you go through a traumatic experience, good things come out from a traumatic experience. And all these wonderful foundations are created because of somebody's misfortune. Even this podcast is created because of a misfortune. And that's such a gift, in a way, that you were able to transform something negative in something giving. So for me, making ribbons and sewing and sequins, like, it lost a little bit of its appeal. I loved feel women empowered and happy with their dresses, but I feel more in line with my purpose now than I felt before.
That's so beautiful. And it is so true. People need others who can relate to where they are. Sometimes people think that to support somebody, they have to have words of wisdom, or they have to be able to do this and that. But sometimes it's just that, like you said, sitting next to them during chemo. And sometimes it's the quiet moments that they need a whole lot more than they do the busy ones. That is just beautifully done. And I think that is a very beautiful calling, because those of us that haven't had cancer we can't fathom. We can empathize, but we can't really completely understand because we have not been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a perfect place to end the recording, because it says it all. It's just beautiful. But Monica, is there anything else that you would like to add? Do you have anything else for our listeners that might be really in the darkest place of their life? If not, it's good. We have plenty here. But if you do, I want to give you an opportunity.
I just thank you guys so much for the opportunity to let me talk to you guys and your listeners. I mean, no, just hang on, hang in there, try to laugh, try to find joy in the darkest places. And I guess, just hang in there.
That's perfect. Sometimes you can only do that, right? One day, one breath, 1 minute at a time. And that's all you can do to just get to the next one, so that you can, walk through that promised land at that point. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, well, Monica, please make sure that you really do look into making these cold caps and creating these so that you can sell them to women at a reasonable price. This would be such an incredible gift, and it would be sort of the perfect segue from making beautiful fashion for women to feel empowered and gorgeous. And then now you're helping them not lose their hair so that they can still find themselves when they look in the mirror and not feel scared and shamed by that. So please find a way to do that. We'll be looking for that. And again, thank you so much for your time and thank you for what you do, Monica. You are really impacting people for good.
Thank you so much. I will. I promise I will. I'm on it.
Good.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If this conversation stirred something in you, hope, grief, or the courage to keep going, we want you to know you're not alone. Midlife reinvention doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes it's one breath, one step, and one day at a time. If Monica's story encouraged you, please consider sharing this episode with another woman who might need to hear it. And if you're looking for a space to connect with women walking through a similar season as you, we invite you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay connected with us here. Our hope is to create a community where women in midlife feel seen, supported, reminded that it's never too late to begin again. Thank you and have a wonderful day.